Don't bring your kids to the reunion, my mom texted. They make my sister's kids feel uncomfortable. I replied, no problem. I didn't mention I'd just updated the venue booking, which I'd paid for. Day of the event, my sister called panicking. The country club says we don't have a reservation, I said calmly. That's because I took my $22,000 deposit back. Have the reunion at McDonald's. Here's $20 to help out. Don't bring your kids to the reunion. I read the text 3 times before it made sense. I was standing in my restaurant kitchen, still in my whites, service tickets clipped above the pass, and my 8-year-old daughter Lily was sitting on a flour sack by the walk-in, drawing a huge sign that said, Family Reunion, Welcome Cousins. She'd added balloons and little stick people holding hands. She was so proud of it, she kept asking which wall at the country club they'd hang it on. My phone buzzed again. Mom. Gregory, I forgot to mention earlier. Don't bring your kids to the reunion. They make your sister's kids feel uncomfortable. My throat went dry. I read it again, slower this time, like there was some other way to interpret it. Don't bring your kids. Lily swung her legs and squinted at my face. Is it Grandma? She asked. Did she like the sign? I turned the phone over, screen to my palm, like I could hide the words from both of us. Yeah, I lied. She texted. What did she say? Lily's eyes were bright. Do they have a wall big enough? Uncle Mark said there's a fountain. Do they have a wall by the fountain? My hands were shaking. I put the phone face down on the stainless counter and forced my voice to stay even. She said she's excited to see everyone. I said, hey, can you add your name on the bottom? So they know who made it. She grinned and bent over the paper. Her tongue stuck out a little when she wrote, Lily G. The G was way too big. My phone buzzed again. Mom, it's nothing personal. It's just that your sister's children are more sensitive, and they don't understand your situation. We want to avoid drama. Your situation. My marriage. My kids. My life. I looked at Lily, my not biological but fully mine daughter, in her too big Greg's t-shirt, coloring hearts around the word family for people who had just told me she made them uncomfortable. I swallowed hard enough that it hurt. I typed one reply. Me. No problem. Then I locked the phone, slid it into my back pocket, and walked back onto the line before my cooks could see my face fall apart. I didn't mention that an hour earlier, I'd logged into the country club's event portal to triple-check the booking, or that I knew exactly how much of my own money was sitting there as the deposit. $22,000. I'm Gregory. I'm 40, head chef and co-owner of a Michelin star restaurant in Chicago, married to my husband, Daniel, who runs our pastry program, and dad to 2 kids, Lily, 8, and Jonah, 11. Lily is Daniel's niece by blood, our daughter by adoption. Jonah is my biological son from my first marriage. If you ask my parents, that makes Lily not really their grandchild and Jonah confusing. If you ask me, they're both my kids. End of story. My parents live in the suburbs, 25 minutes and a lifetime away. My older sister, Vanessa, lives 5 minutes from them in a house I helped pay for. Literally. For years, they treated me like the family wallet with a chef's knife. When my dad's truck died, I paid the $9,800 for a reliable used one because he couldn't get to work otherwise. When Vanessa and her husband wanted to renovate their kitchen, I wrote a $15,000 check so they could host more family dinners. When the pandemic almost took out my parents' mortgage, I started transferring $600 every month just until things evened out. When my restaurant finally got its start 2 years ago, everyone acted like they'd earned it with me. My mom told the story like she'd chopped the onions herself. My dad started introducing himself as the father of Chef Gregory from TV. They hung my newspaper reviews on their fridge. But my kids? They were props. Background extras. At Christmas, my parents bought Jonah a pair of clearance headphones and called them almost like those Apple ones, then posted photos holding Vanessa's kids' iPads like trophies. Lily used to hand my mom little drawings. She'd stick them on the side of the fridge, half covered by pizza coupons. They skipped Jonah's soccer games because the traffic was too crazy, but drove 3 hours to see Vanessa's middle kid in a 6-minute dance recital. I let it slide. I kept thinking if I showed up, if I kept paying, if I kept smiling, they'd eventually see my family as real. I told myself they were old-fashioned, not cruel. I told myself a lot of things. The union they never forgot was this. I was the one whose name was on the checks. They saw me as the backup plan, the emergency fund, the helper, the outsider who made everything easier. And I kept letting them. The reunion was my idea. Or that's what I thought. My dad turned 70 this year. My parents' 45th anniversary was in the same month. My cousins are scattered now, Denver, Austin, New York, and we hadn't had everyone in one place in over a decade. So when the restaurant had a crazy good quarter in the spring, I called my mom. Let me plan something, I said. Big family reunion. Proper venue. I'll take care of it. She didn't argue. Why would she? I booked the ballroom at a fancy country club my corporate clients love. White tablecloths, open bar, lawn for the kids to run around, good acoustics so my uncle could embarrass himself with karaoke. Total cost for the night, just under $40,000. I put down the $22,000 deposit, signed the contracts, and added the event to my calendar like it was any other catering job. We group chatted about menus. Everyone had opinions. Vanessa said no seafood. My mom texted. Her kids don't like the smell. Of course, I replied. I'll adjust. Maybe keep it simple, she added. We don't need your fancy food. Just stuff people recognize. I swallowed that one too. I told myself it was fine. They were excited. They just didn't understand what I did for a living. They were happy to let me pay for it, though. My brother-in-law joked about Greg's rich chef money, like I hadn't spent 15 years burning my hands and missing holidays to build my career. The only part of it that felt purely good was Lily and Jonah's excitement. Lily made lists of cousin games. Jonah asked if we could stay at the hotel attached to the club, like a real vacation. I booked them a room and pictured them swimming in the pool with kids who saw them as cousins, not caveats. Then came that text. Don't bring your kids to the reunion. They make your sister's kids feel uncomfortable. I stared at the words in the middle of service while my sous chef called for garnish. Uncomfortable how? Because Jonah has two dads? Because Lily is adopted and calls me dad anyway? Because my kids say please and thank you and don't use mean comments? I typed out a dozen replies in my head. What is wrong with you? Say that again out loud. Uncomfortable is watching your grandchild get passed over for the 4th time in a year. Instead, I wrote, no problem. And then I did the one thing they weren't expecting. I stopped being their bank. It wasn't dramatic. Not at first. It was just practical. After service, when the kitchen finally went quiet and Daniel was rolling out croissant dough in the back, I went into my tiny office, closed the door, and pulled up the country club's portal. Event, Gregory Garcia, family reunion. Date, August 12th. Deposit, $22,000 received, non-refundable after July 15th. We were 2 weeks out. Right inside the window, there was a button at the bottom of the page. Modify/cancel event. My finger hovered. I thought about Lily's sign. I thought about Jonah trying on the shirt he picked just for fancy dinner. I thought about my mother telling me, at Easter, that she didn't know how to explain our lifestyle to Vanessa's kids. I thought about the fact that, even after that, I'd still offered to pay for a night celebrating people who would rather erase my children than make anyone uncomfortable. I clicked the button. A form popped up. Reason for cancellation. I typed, change of plans. The next screen showed a breakdown. Deposit to be refunded to Gregory Garcia, my number. Refund amount, $22,000. Processing time, 3 to 5 business days. I stared at the confirmation screen until my eyes burned. Then I printed it and slid the paper into a folder with our payroll reports, like it was just another invoice. I didn't tell anyone. Not Daniel. Not my kids. Definitely not my mother. The next morning, between prep and lunch service, I made a second call. Hi, this is Chef Gregory from Brasa. I told our events manager. Can you block off August 12th? I want the dining room closed to the public that night. Family event. Maybe 30 people tops. She laughed. You finally letting us feed you instead of the other way around. Something like that. I sent out a few quiet texts to the people who had actually treated my kids like family. My cousin Marco and his wife, my Aunt Elena, my younger cousin who always asked Lily about her drawings. Hey, side thing. I'm doing a small dinner at Brasa on the 12th. Just us and whoever wants to actually hang out. Kids obviously welcome. No pressure. Let me know if you want details. I didn't mention the country club. Not yet. The day of the reunion, I woke up to rain tapping the bedroom window and the smell of coffee. Daniel handed me a mug and raised an eyebrow. You didn't sleep, he said. Service brain, I lied. He kissed my forehead. Service brain doesn't check the clock at 3 a.m. and sigh like that. I almost told him then. Almost handed him the printed cancellation and let him say all the things my pride wouldn't let me admit out loud. Instead, I just said, my mom texted me yesterday. She asked me not to bring the kids. Daniel went still. He's quieter than me. Softer. But his anger is cold when it shows up. What? He asked. I repeated the message. He stared at me for a long time, like he was trying to decide whether I was joking. They told you not to bring your own children, he said slowly. To a reunion you paid for. I nodded. And you're still going? I'm supposed to give a toast. I said. I'm the one who organized everything. Daniel's jaw tightened. What did you tell the kids? Nothing yet. I rubbed my face. I didn't want to wreck it before school. I figured I'd figure something out. He sat on the edge of the bed. Greg, this is your line. They didn't just insult you. They told our daughter she doesn't exist. They told your son they're ashamed of him. I looked out at the gray sky. I know, I said. I handled it. He watched me. What did you do? You'll see. By noon, my phone looked like it was trying to escape my pocket. Missed calls from my mom. From Vanessa. From my dad, which was rare enough that my stomach clenched. I didn't answer any of them. We took the kids to the lake instead. I grilled burgers on a little portable. Daniel brought leftover tart dough and turned it into rustic fruit pies on the spot. Lily and Jonah skipped rocks and argued about whose splash was bigger. Every now and then, Lily would say, "Should we leave soon? I don't want to be late." And my chest would constrict. "We're good," I'd say. "We're doing this today." At 3:47 p.m., my phone finally rang with a FaceTime request from Vanessa. I stepped away from the picnic table and answered. Her face filled the screen, blotchy and furious. "Gregory, what did you do?" she shouted, no hello. "The country club says we don't have a reservation." There it was. I kept my voice calm. "I know," I said. "What do you mean, you know? Everyone is here. Mom is crying. They're saying something about a canceled event. Did you mess up the date?" "No," I said. "I canceled it." She stared at me like I'd admitted to committing a crime. "You what?" "I took my $22,000 deposit back," I said. "There is no reunion at the country club. You can't do that." Her voice jumped an octave. "We have 70 people here. People flew in. The kids are dressed up. You can't just." "I can, actually." I shifted my weight, watching Lily chase Jonah with a handful of grass. "Because it was my money, my contract, and my event." "You're insane," she hissed. "You're punishing everyone because Mom asked for one little thing. You always make everything about you." "One little thing," I repeated. "Asking me not to bring my kids to a family reunion that I was paying for." "They make my kids uncomfortable," she snapped. "You know that. The way you live, the questions they ask." "I'm going to stop you right there," I said. "Have the reunion at McDonald's. Here's $20 to help out." I pulled a 20 from my wallet, held it up to the camera for a second, then slid it back in. "That's not funny," she said. "I'm not joking," I replied. "This is me being generous for the last time." "You can't just walk away," she said. "You can't just pull the plug like that. We depended on you." "I know," I said. "That's the problem." I ended the call. My hand was shaking, but my voice had stayed flat. That mattered to me. When I turned back to our table, Daniel was watching me. "How bad?" he asked. "They're at the country club," I said. "No party." His mouth twitched, just a little. "Ouch." I shrugged and sat back down. "We're having a better meal anyway," I said. The fallout started before we got home. First was a text from my mom, long enough to need scrolling. Half of it was guilt, half of it was rage. "I can't believe you'd humiliate us like this. People are here, there's no food, and now we look like idiots. You've always been dramatic, but this is too far. We are your parents. You owe us more respect than this." Not a single word about my children. Not one. Then my dad called. I let it go to voicemail. In his, he sounded more angry than I'd heard him in years. "This is childish, Greg. You're acting like a diva. You want to be mad at your mother. Fine, but you don't blow up the whole family event over feelings. Call me back. We'll sort this out, and you'll reinstate the booking." There it was again. "You'll reinstate. You'll pay." That night, after the kids were in bed, my parents showed up at my apartment without warning. Daniel saw their car first. He came into the living room and said, "They're here." My stomach flipped. I opened the door, but didn't step aside. My mom pushed past the hello. "How could you?" she demanded. "Your aunt flew in from Florida. The cousins drove 3 hours. Everyone was hungry. We had to scramble to order pizza like some college party. Do you know how embarrassing that was?" She made it sound like I'd forgotten to turn on the oven, not like she'd told me my family wasn't welcome. "I found out what's embarrassing," I said. "It's being told your kids are too uncomfortable to attend something their father paid for." "They wouldn't have understood," she said. "Vanessa's children are sensitive. They don't know what to make of this." She waved a hand at our living room, at Daniel, at the framed photos of our family on the wall. Daniel crossed his arms. He didn't say anything. His presence was enough. My dad stepped forward. "You should have talked to us instead of pulling a stunt," he said. "You've cost us money." They kept part of that deposit, you know. They kept $500, I said. You're welcome. You got a heavily discounted pizza party. My mom's eyes flashed. We raised you, she said. We supported you when you were nothing. We came to your school plays. We always had your back. You also told me not to bring my kids to a family event, I said. So I'm done funding your version of family. I canceled the reunion. I will not apologize for that. My dad scoffed. So that's it. You throw away decades of tradition over one text. This isn't about one text, I said quietly. This is about every time you've acted like Lily is a guest instead of your granddaughter. Every time you've referred to Jonah as your boy, like he doesn't have your last name. Every time you've taken my money and my time, and then made it clear my family is second class. My mom crossed her arms, mirroring my dad. You're being sensitive, she said. You always overreact. You're trying to punish us. I thought about Lily asking if Grandma liked her sign. I thought about Jonah carefully folding his outfit and laying it on the chair by his bed. I'm setting a boundary, I said. You're off my accounts. I'm not paying for anything else. No trips, no bills, no parties, and we won't show up anywhere we aren't all invited from the start. You don't mean that, my dad said. You'll calm down and realize you went too far. I opened the door wider. I meant every word. I said, you can go now. My mom's face crumpled. You're choosing them over us, she whispered. I met her eyes. I'm choosing my children over people who refuse to treat them like family, I said. That shouldn't be a hard choice. They left without saying goodbye to the kids. I locked the door behind them and leaned my forehead against it. My hands were still shaking, but there was a strange stillness under it, like the kitchen right after the last ticket goes out. The next week was noise. Voicemails, texts, a Facebook post from Vanessa about people who forget where they come from. A cousin DM'd me to say I'd gone Hollywood, now that I had a star. I muted everything. When my mom tried calling Daniel instead, he answered once. I'm not going to be your messenger, he told her calmly. If you want a relationship with our family, it includes both fathers and both children. Or it includes none of us. Daniel, don't get involved, she said. This is between us and Gregory. He laughed once. I married him, he said. I'm involved. He hung up. The only person who came to our door was my Aunt Elena. She showed up on a Thursday afternoon with a Tupperware of arroz con leche and a box of pastries she'd bought from Daniel's favorite bakery, because even chefs need someone else's dessert sometimes. She hugged me at the door. I heard what happened, she said. I'm sorry it took this long for you to stop paying their bills. I blinked at her. You're not mad. She shook her head. Mad at you, she said. No. Mad that your parents thought they could treat Lily and Jonah like afterthoughts and still cash your checks? Yes. She peeked around me. Are the kids home? Yeah, I said. Homework time. Good, she smiled. I brought them something. She sat at our tiny kitchen table and let Lily show her the reunion sign that never got used. She told Jonah his latest soccer goal video was better than the World Cup. She asked Daniel for seconds of dessert. On her way out, she squeezed my shoulder. You know you didn't ruin anything, she said. They did. You just stopped making it comfortable for them. 2 months later, on the day the reunion was supposed to be, we had our own. By then, the dust had mostly settled. The group chat had gone quiet once they realized I really wasn't sending money. My parents weren't talking to me. Vanessa had blocked me on social media. But Marco and his wife came. Aunt Elena, of course. My younger cousin with his girlfriend. A couple of friends we'd made family along the way. We closed the restaurant for the night and turned the dining room into something that actually felt like a celebration. No dress code. No speeches about heritage from people who never once helped with homework or hospital bills. We pushed 4 tables together in the middle of the room, draped them in simple linen, and let the kids decorate the center with whatever they wanted. Lily carefully placed her family reunion, welcome cousins, sign on the host stand. This time it's true, she said. I swallowed around the lump in my throat. Yeah, I said. This time it is. Jonah asked if he could show Marco the kitchen. I watched from the past as my son, who used to shrink around my parents, walked proudly around the line, pointing at each station like he owned it. Daniel did a dessert bar for the kids. Build your own sundaes, warm cookies, tiny tarts. At one point, I looked over and saw Lily and another cousin's kids standing on stools, smearing chocolate sauce on each other's noses. At the far end of the big table, we'd set 2 chairs with place cards written in Lily's careful handwriting. Grandma, Grandpa. They stayed empty all night. No one commented. No one made a joke. They were just there. A quiet statement. Halfway through the evening, Lily climbed onto my lap. "Daddy," she asked, "are Grandma and Grandpa still mad?" I thought about lying, about telling her they were busy or tired. Instead, I said, "They're confused. They don't know how to love the way you deserve yet." She nodded like that made sense. "Do we still love them?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "from far away. And we love the people who show up even more." She seemed satisfied with that. She slid back down and ran off to join a game of hide-and-seek behind the banquette. Later, after everyone had left and the dining room was quiet again, I found something on the host's stand that hadn't been there before. Lily's sign was still there, but now there was another sheet of paper taped next to it. A smaller drawing, for stick figures at a big table. 2 empty chairs at the end. Above it, in Lily's uneven handwriting, "Real family, all done running." I stood there for a long time, just looking at it. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel like I'd pulled off some clever revenge. I felt steady. For years, I'd poured money into people who only wanted parts of me. The son who cooked, the brother who bailed them out, the chef who picked up the check. Not the father of the uncomfortable kids. Now, finally, my money, my time, and my love were going to the people who sat at the table with my children and called them theirs. I took Lily's drawing, laminated it the next day, and hung it in my office above the stack of invoices I used to sign without thinking. It's the first thing I see when I open the door. A reminder that I didn't ruin the reunion. I just moved it somewhere my kids were welcome. Gregory's story taught me something painful. You can fund someone's entire life, and they'll still tell you your children aren't welcome, then expect the check to clear anyway. What really happened? His mother texted, "Don't bring your children. They make your sister's kids uncomfortable," about a $40,000 reunion Gregory was paying for. Not, "Can we talk about this?" Just a casual command to leave his kids behind. This from a woman who'd cashed his checks for years. $9,800 for dad's truck, $15,000 for sister's kitchen, $600 per month for their mortgage. They bragged about Chef Gregory from TV and hung his reviews on their fridge, but his daughter Lily? She made people uncomfortable. The moment that captures everything. Lily spent hours making a family reunion. Welcome cousins, sign with balloons and stick figures, asking excitedly which wall at the country club they'd hang it on. Meanwhile, Gregory's phone held a text saying don't bring her. The real lesson. When your family wants your money, but not your children, canceling the autopay isn't revenge, it's dignity. Gregory didn't scream or threaten. He calmly logged into the country club portal, canceled the booking, reclaimed his $22,000, then hosted a different reunion at his restaurant. 2 chairs sat empty all night, labeled Grandma and Grandpa in Lily's handwriting. A quiet statement about who chose to show up. If someone asks you to fund a celebration your own kids can't attend, is canceling the event cruel, or just basic respect for the people you're raising? And how long do you finance family gatherings that exclude your children before you realize you're paying for their erasure? Share your experiences. Because being the family's bank account shouldn't mean your kids are disposable.